Hello guys, welcome to Bears Bowley Go Disco Decks, where we're no longer on the lower decks, but we are on the disco,
Yeah.
with my disco
Um,
lighting.
yeah, James has gone all funky.
All I need
He's
is like fire and explosions popping up behind me and doing that.
I mean, a mirror ball would be fine.
Yeah, but you know,
Being that we
the
call it
Star Trek
disco
shake.
dancing. Yeah, the Star Trek
Which
shake.
we've got a lot of Star Trek shaking in these two episodes.
Yeah.
And
So
before we actually get into spoilers, and we're going to discuss spoilers, because I'm on this and I've got this thought in my mind and I wanted to bring it up and I'll forget if I don't.
okay.
Especially in the first episode, but also partly in the second, we're going to be discussing episodes 1 and 2 of Star Trek Discovery Season 4 today. That you would have thought I prepared and got the names for, but I forgot. Episode 1 is called Kobayashi Maru, and episode 2 is called Anomaly. There we go, I remembered them. Got a brain like Spock.
Eventually.
Yeah. Slow. Spock, but 2 days later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so much of that fire and explosions and sparks seem to just be coming from nowhere on that bridge.
Yes. Yeah.
Like-
Because like
Especially episode 1. Like there's just
they
like
shouldn't.
I cannot tell where that fire is coming from. It's just fire behind them.
Because in theory there shouldn't be a reason for fire.
If a console went on fire, that's fine, but it's just these weird plumes
But
of fire.
not an explosive fire. Because it's not like they've got gas pipes going through.
It's like
'Cause you'd
someone.
think
There's a feeling of like someone got a fire CGI budget and really wanted to spend it.
Or, I mean, it could be practical effects as well. Bit of
But
both.
I didn't like it.
Fair enough.
It was just a little bit. I was watching. It was like I can't. Like that just seems to be randomly there and not actually anything blowing up.
Uh,
This feels like unsafe ship design. If there's just random, like
or it keeps them on their toes.
yeah.
Because
maybe
remember
that's
when
it.
this was. Remember when the Discovery was initially built? I mean, like, it was during a period of, like, roguish Starfleet captains. So it could just be to keep them on their toes.
But yes,
Maybe it was part. Because, I mean, it wasn't that far removed from, like, the actual Zephyr and Cochrane ship. Maybe it was still running on some of Zephyr and Cochrane's designs, and he probably had alcohol running through it all over the place.
maybe
Just
that's
streams of whiskey for absolutely no. Yes, of course, it's to keep things cool.
But tiny quibble about random explosions aside. Obviously, we're in the UK.
Yep.
3 days before release, Paramount decided we weren't getting it.
Yep.
They have since
Or at,
decided.
least, revealed we weren't getting it.
Yeah.
Whether they decided beforehand and didn't know how to tell us. This was like someone who waits until after Valentine's Day to break up with someone. Like it was like,
We knew they were done,
Oh, no.
but they thought they'd better.
yeah,
But no, this is like someone not waiting till after Valentine's Day. This is like someone knowing they were done in January and waiting for
Yeah.
3 days before Valentine's Day.
yeah. Booking the restaurant, getting the flowers. Like they'd already allowed them to see what looked like a little ring box, and they're gonna propose. Oh, what? Oh.
I mean,
Yeah, so
we
Paramount,
never got
that's
any.
how
We
we'll-
never got any Netflix trailers for it, so that should have been the evidence we needed.
It should have been. It should have. And to be honest, I did have that feeling the day that they announced it. Before
Yeah.
they announced it, it was very much like, oh,
Because whenever CBS released a trailer, like a day later, Netflix would usually release the same trailer, and that never happened. But yes, so no Discovery in the UK. However, a week later, upon outcry, they kind of decided to rectify it.
outcry.
They decided to rectify it with what I can only describe as the gaffer tape of solutions. It's a Scottish solution for sure.
Oh, this isn't even the gaffer tape. This is the we sprung a leak, but luckily I've got some chewing gum in my mouth. And we'll see if that holds.
It was a weird announcement because they announced like, oh, it's coming to Pluto TV, and I was like, and I think a lot of people's reaction was, what's Pluto TV? as someone who did know what Pluto TV was, it was a reaction of, why? And then I went on Wikipedia and it was like, oh, they own it. Fair enough.
Yeah.
CBS Viacom own Pluto TV. And it's a weird linear streaming
It's a
service.
linear streaming service, yeah. So, like, instead
Full
of
of
being...
old things, generally.
Yeah.
And
So you're not able to have anything on demand. They
it's
just...
it's the
they-
dregs
it's,
of...
a, sen- it's a television channel that's available on the internet.
It's the dregs of Freeview
Yeah.
as a streaming service. And it is
But not
complete, but it is
really.
completely free.
Yeah.
It is completely free. You don't even have to sign up to use it. You don't even have to have an account.
Yeah.
And they decided they were going to air it at 9 o'clock in countries that have it. So still not every country's got it. Like Republic of Ireland is still without, for example. There's other countries that can't get Discovery still. But in countries where Pluto TV is available, it airs at 9 o'clock on Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Showing it 3 times a week.
So right in the middle of prime time.
This shit is a primetime show, so...
I mean, it
that's
is a
fine.
prime time show, but I mean, let's face it, Strictly's going to murder it on a Saturday. I don't know what's on a Friday. It's been a long time since I've watched mainstream telly.
It's not on
Live.
demand, and I guess we get it on demand with everything else Star Trek in January when Paramount launches.
If it's January.
In the UK, we get on... You get, I think, included if you're a Sky customer. Bit like how Peacock has launched over here.
Yeah.
But unlike Peacock, it is available as a separate subscription service as well.
Which is good because, like...
Yeah, because you're not stuck at Sky's 720p.
Well, I mean, there's that, but I mean, it's also the fact that it's essentially then behind 2 paywalls in a way. Like, and you know that Murdoch's getting some money.
Well, no, you wouldn't be paying for it if it was
You know what I
Sky.
mean,
But,
like,
if you have Sky, you get it. So
It still feels
a lot of
more
people
like
still
2.
have Sky. So that is a bonus if you've got one of the Sky services, whether that be... I think it's going to be available... It's a part of Sky Cinema. So if you have Sky Cinema or Now TV Cinema, it'll be one of the channels on that service.
Which is all right.
Yeah, so that's the drama out of the way.
Yeah.
So on to the show itself. It's still very much Discovery.
Oh yeah, it's episode 1. I didn't notice it so much, but episode 2, it did. I suddenly remembered, like, oh yeah, they shot this bit during the pandemic. Because episode 2, you can see how they're quite cleverly managing to keep minimal numbers of people in each scene. They're keeping them spread apart as much as they can, which obviously be an interesting dynamic for the rest of the season, because Discovery is a very action-packed, like thrilling, as you said, dramatic.
Maybe they're going
show.
to amp up the emotion. Episode 2 would imply so.
Yeah, it's going to be ramp. I mean, so spoilers, obviously. It's been out for 2 weeks.
Yeah, let's discuss episode 1 first.
Yeah.
Kobayashi Maru.
Assuming.
We get to meet the new Starfleet, the new
Which,
Federation
for those of you who
president.
can't remember what the name means first for Kobayashi Maru. I mean,
Okay.
I assume you do.
Kobayashi Maru is a test that they run in Starfleet Academy. I don't know if they still run it in the era that Discovery is set in, but it was certainly used during Kirk's era and the era that the crew of the Discovery have come from.
I think it was still around when, like, you were certainly mentioned in TNG.
Yeah, and it's to teach people that there is a no-win situation. Or to quote Picard, sometimes it is possible to do everything right and still lose.
Yeah.
The idea is that sometimes you won't be able to save everyone. Sometimes
Sometimes you can't win.
Yes, sometimes you just can't win. And
Yeah.
famously, Kirk cheated to win. Because Kirk famously does not believe in the no-win scenario.
Yes.
Which,
There's always a way to win.
Again, to quote Bones,
Yeah.
you did what you do every time, Jim. You took death and turned it into a fighting chance at life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Star Trek nerd. We all are. That's assume why you're watching us.
Yes. That's why we're doing it.
And I guess what we get here is we get this intrinsic diametric between because Burnham decides she doesn't like the president, but it's Burnham. She doesn't like anyone in authority really.
Yeah, I mean, Burnham doesn't necessarily like.
I imagine we're
anyone.
about 5 minutes away from her rebelling against herself soon. So it's.
Yes, that would be a good episode.
Oh man, I sound off, but I like Burnham as a character. It's just sometimes it's I don't know. Sometimes she's wrong, but the show doesn't necessarily because she's the hero.
Yeah,
the show doesn't always acknowledge that she's probably the person in the wrong in this given scene.
Yeah, but then I think episode 1 possibly goes towards teaching her that lesson, which is why it's called Kobayashi Maru.
Yeah.
But because obviously she's newly a captain as well, and
they're opening. They're opening the new Starfleet Academy, aren't they? And the president is there, and the upper brass of Starfleet are there. Federation, in the gap between seasons, has started to reform. New member worlds have joined.
And old members who haven't necessarily rejoined, but are talking.
Yes.
Are present.
The universe is getting, or the galaxies are getting back to being more peaceful.
Yeah.
Or at least on steps towards it. And we see there's an emergency, a space station, a deep space station, as something's gone wrong, and they go to help it. And the president decides to go along for the ride. It's very good to see how competent the Discovery crew are, right? It's nice to see them work and settle into oh yeah, we need to do this.
Well, they're all quite a young crew as well.
But they've been through a lot.
But have been through so much.
They're arguably a wartime crew, aren't they? That's the thing.
Well, they are. And
I mean, there's no arguably about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the elder statesmen are the Doctor and Stamets. They are the only two really that are possibly a different generation.
I'd say they're the same as Michael. Potentially older, but service time, it's worth noting Michael was a commander when she was bunked down. So Michael rose up the ranks to commander at the start of
yeah, but
war.
I mean, obviously she sort of has that head start of being Vulcan trained and what have you.
Yeah,
I think. So
point is she's. I'd say in terms of experience time in Starfleet, Michael is probably of equal footing.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know the age difference of the actors, but I get the feeling that
because Stamets was only a lieutenant commander.
Yeah, but then he was very, very much a dedicated scientist.
Yeah,
so he's probably reluctantly had promotions just simply so he can get access to more toys.
I would still say they're on similar experience levels too, but then you had a lot of ensigns and cadets who were on the ship during the war,
who have had to raise up, and they've had I suppose almost the other experience that Harry Kim gets in Voyager, where Harry Kim has to perpetually stay an ensign because there's no room.
We also
for promotion
have that. We have the bridge crew, right? I know we settled on a bridge crew last season and started developing them more, but they're firmly in place now. Tilly is now a lieutenant.
Yep.
So jumped a couple of ranks.
One. She was only an ensign.
She was a cadet, so cadet to ensign to lieutenant.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, she was, wasn't she?
Yep,
Yeah.
she was not an ensign in the.
No.
She might have
Yeah,
been an
fair
ensign
enough.
in season 3.
Yeah.
I'd imagine she would have to
I
have been an
think,
ensign for Thingy to make her first officer.
yeah, I've got a memory of him potentially like,
It's a well earned promotion anyhow.
yeah. So,
She's
yeah.
effectively a science officer of a bridge for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I mean, she fits that, like, especially when Saru isn't there,
Well,
which he isn't for
Stamets
the
is
majority of episodes.
Stamets is chief of science.
Yeah, but she sort of fits the Spock role as,
Yes.
like from the original
then
episode.
you have Adira stepping into effectively Tilly's old role for all intents and purposes. Like Adira is now the cadet on board.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that character stick around. I'm glad they're
Me
sticking
too.
around.
Me too. Because I think, as we said last series, I think what they're doing with that character, as far as like gender or lack of gender or whatever your status might be, representation, is fantastic because they're talking about it, but it's also just so normal.
Yes.
Which I think is the most important thing with representation, is that it just is. That, like, you have a wonderful cast of human characters for the different races and creeds. You've got different alien species. You've got all sorts of stuff all intertwining together. You mentioned in our chat about Prodigy, which we filmed today as well, about the cost of prosthetic makeup and stuff like that. The fact we have Saru now as well also adds some diversity. It's
Still love the
because
Saru
he's
walk.
so different. Oh man, he is just.
I'm so glad that he's a great actor.
Yeah.
He's always been a great actor.
Mm.
But I'm glad he's getting a role that he can just sink into for the long.
Yeah, I mean,
term.
he's gone from being someone who possibly would have been cursed with being, like, not necessarily acknowledged in this, a bit like Andy Serkis. Like like everyone goes, "Oh, Andy Serkis is a great like mocap actor," but it's always that like mocap actor, like the little prefix. Whereas, like, I think with all of his creature performances beforehand, he's fallen into this as well. But with Saru, he really gets to shine because you get again with all that makeup on as well, and yet he can emote.
The thing is, when he got to be human at the end of last
beautifully.
season, right? When he
yeah,
and like, but we see Saru on his home planet. He seems to be respected as an elder there because of.
Well, I mean, he's very old.
And
he was also the one that essentially brought peace to the two species that live on the planet as well.
Yes. In many ways, I guess it's a bit like having a legendary hero rock up, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably like...
It's the equivalent of us having King Arthur knock on our doors and be like, hey!
Yeah, in a very, very real sense. So he's... They're King Arthur, definitely. He's someone who, like, in a real way, brought a planet together, brought cultures together, or in this case, even species, two separate species. So he has this weird. I suppose it must be so odd for the for the character to find themselves, because he's such a humble being as well. And again, a testament to the acting there. I think.
It takes his, I guess, for kind of want of a better term, his kind of surrogate son.
Yeah.
To tell him that while it's nice that he's back home, he kind of belongs.
Yeah.
In space, like. Because it's clear he's restless.
Yeah.
Like that, as much as he may like being home and think and want to be there, it's clear, like, I guess in a similar way to, like, you can't put Kirk behind a desk, right? he
but
belongs
I suppose
to.
there's also that thing of that, like, I know obviously space flight is not as easy at that point because of the lack of dilithium and stuff like that, but he can now safely visit home.
Yes.
It's not the home that he grew up in, that it was a literally very dangerous place for him
And
to
that's
be.
the thing, being a man at a time, the people who are his family are on Discovery, right? They're the people who understand him.
His family have been dead 900 years.
Yeah. Apart from Discovery crew.
Yeah.
And it's a nice scene between them.
It is. It's very nice.
We get the episode opened on some action of them annoying a butterfly species and typical disco action. It was a fun opening. I haven't really got much else to say beyond that.
It did what it needed to do. It introduced a new species, one we've never seen before, probably because they would be impossible to have shown before without current technologies.
And then Buck goes home.
Yeah.
And UBC's made amends with his family.
And they have a sort of coming of age ceremony with his nephew, which would be his nephew's obviously about 12 in human terms, so it would be the similar thing to like a Catholic confirmation or a Jewish bar mitzvah or something like that. I suppose that sort of thing.
And then obviously we have
that age group.
The scenes where they go to rescue this deep space crew, and it's dangerous because some kind of gravitational field has hit it.
Anomaly.
Has knocked it out of sync. And Tilly and Adira go over, and again you get to see Star Trek crew being competent, right? That's for they're very good at what they do. And here's where you get the clashes between the President and Burnham, because Burnham wants to do the thing. Why the President is potentially right in saying, like, are you sure you shouldn't stay on the ship?
The President is doing a very best Will Riker. Stay in the ship, Captain. Stay in the ship.
And Burnham keeps saying, like, demote me if you want.
Go on, I do it. I dare you.
Take the chair from me.
Yeah.
Burnham and Mariner are so similar in many ways.
Oh, yeah,
but at times I think Mariner is somehow more adjusted.
Yes. Definitely. I think in a way though, because Mariner probably didn't have a bad life.
Yeah.
Like, whereas many things have obviously gone wrong for Burnham.
Yes.
So like you can forgive this. Like Discovery, however long it runs, is going to be the tale of Burnham healing herself.
Yeah.
More than as much as anything else, it's Burnham fixing herself, with the help of people around her, which is nice because, like, I think she's the most broken captain that we've had.
Yes, and the fact that outside of potentially getting into some of the more dramatics of the original series movies, Star Trek was never about character before. It was about plot. While now it's as much about, or at least Discovery especially, is definitely about the characters. Which is why I mentioned it in the previous episode. Like, here's where we really truly get Star Trek has consequence now. Decisions they make, and because it's serialized storytelling now as well, right?
Yeah.
Decisions they make have weight.
Yeah.
Someone's planet blowing up matters next episode. In a way where it probably wouldn't have mattered in TNG. Not to the same. There's a couple of decisions I would say have effect in TNG. Picard being turned into Locutus.
Yeah.
And Worf being kicked out of the Klingon
Empire.
Yeah. Those two things potentially have consequences, but not much else in like classic Star Trek does.
I mean, I think
it's an interesting fact that Star Trek is in a similar spot. to Doctor Who in the fact that there is clearly classic Trek and new Trek now, the same way there's classic Who and new Who.
Yeah.
And we still call new Who, despite, as we mentioned, as we were talking about Doctor Who before stream, being nearly 20 years old.
Yeah. So it's run nearly as long as
but it's still new Who.
Original Who. But yeah, back to Star Trek. So episode 2.
Well,
so
I'm not quite finished with episode 1 yet.
Well, I mean, you did just mention that Book's planet blows up.
I did, yes. That happens at the end. The same gravitational well. So all that nice family stuff. Sorry, Book. You get the drama this season.
Yeah.
It's your turn's life to be terrible. But we do have that scene at the end after she decides she won't leave people behind, and that decision ends up costing other lives. The president decides to give her, I don't know if I would describe it as a
shakedown.
Yeah, like, what were you thinking? And brings up the Kobayashi Maru.
Yeah.
And Burnham argues back how she doesn't believe in no-win scenarios, etc., etc. But I couldn't shake in that scene being like, I think I agree with the president.
I agreed with the president. And I think...
But I don't think the show agrees with the president.
No, I think the show does agree with the president. I think that... Because, obviously, the other thing that was in this is there was the tantalizing fruit of a brand new starship. And they were... The president was...
Yes.
Putting a shortlist together of potential captains, which, of course, Burnham was on the list, but by the end of the episode, she'd been taken off.
Yes. Which she wouldn't have left Discovery anyway, but...
No. Although, it was interesting because that was very much like the design of the ship when they just very quickly teased it. You could see that was the 900-year in the future version of the Excelsior class.
Yeah.
It was very much that tease from the films. Of Scotty lusting for it.
Yeah, episode 2. We discover that Book is dealing with a loss of his entire world, which has to weigh on the soul a little bit.
Just a touch.
He's very closed off, not really talking to anyone, blaming himself. Saru has joined the crew again and offers to be Michael's number 1. There's a nice moment on the bridge later where everyone says "Welcome back, Captain" to him. And they obviously decide what has to be the official
title.
Yeah, and they settle on Mr. Saru.
Yeah.
Which does make me wonder, why was Spock Mr. Spock when he was also Commander Spock and not Captain Spock?
I think it's you know how medical doctors, when they become consultants, they drop Doctor and become Mr. again.
Yeah.
I think it's that. I think it's when it's a note of you've reached such expertise that you have become Mr. something. And so I think potentially, I'm possibly wrong, but I think potentially it's something to do with that. That it's because especially...
Because it's a problem with, Captain arguably is not a rank, right? It's just who's in charge of... for ship.
Well, that's the thing, because obviously, Captain is a military rank.
Yeah.
And Discovery being from the era that it was, those ships still, a lot of the time, Starfleet would have been slightly more biased towards a military thing. Yes, there would have been lots of science and lots of exploration.
It's more that Starfleet is a military organisation.
Yeah.
So it has rankings, but the point I was trying to make is a ship can only have one captain, even if multiple people on board have a rank of captain.
Yes.
If we think about TOS era movies, a good chunk of the Enterprise crew are captains at that point.
Yes.
Scotty is carrying the rank of captain. Spock is carrying the rank of captain.
Yeah, you're right.
Kirk is technically carrying the rank of captain once he gets demoted down from admiral.
I mean, at one point, Spock's ambassador, so he outranks them all because he's like, because it's obviously he's gone off on a tangent.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But you got to call another captain something, but you can't necessarily call them captain because the ship has a captain.
Yeah.
And both Saru and Burnham are both of a rank of captain. Yeah.
And both of them for not necessarily that long as well. Like, Saru hasn't been a captain for that long.
And Saru's promotion is effectively a promotion of necessity. Like, it's a field promotion, right? And obviously he's been offered a ship, but he decides to come back to...
Well, he's been offered the ship, the one that we were talking about,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. So, which, again, puts a bit of emphasis on the fact that, like, he has how much he thinks of Discovery, and, he's been offered this shiny new ship and he's decided to stay. So,
yeah. And we discover that we have a conference of Starfleet and Starfleet and Allied worlds.
Friendly. Yeah, allies. Yeah.
So you've got two mysterious dudes there. And then you've got the Vulcan, the president of... Not Vulcan, sorry, because Vulcan technically no longer exists. The president of Navarre.
Yeah.
The Vulcan Romulan homeworld. Who offers the Science Academy to Starfleet and the Federation.
Should they need it.
Yep, which is a nice touch. We see our Ferengi captain.
Yeah.
Which I like the new design.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, again, it's 900 years in the future, and Ferengis obviously have been part of the Federation for a very long time.
Also,
at that point. So there would have potentially been like a lot of physical change.
Also, not all humans look the same, so why would all
Ferengis look the same?
Yeah, like there's going to be variance in.
It's just a more elaborate design.
Yeah.
But I mean, as with the president, like the president had heritage with 3 different species. She was Cardassian, Bajoran, and human.
Yeah.
So you got a lovely, subtle, very well designed prosthetic for her.
But yes, they decide to take Discovery out to this anomaly that's causing these gravitational waves and figure out what's happening. Get some scans.
Which they were speculating it was
binary
black holes.
But when we get there, it's not. It's like nothing they've ever seen before.
Because they can't quite see it.
Yeah, they have
dusty cloud.
They don't know what it is, effectively. It's not giving off any readings that make sense. So they decide Buck's ship is the best way to find out, and Buck insists he's going. Because he's got something to prove. So Michael agrees, but under safety precautions of it being tethered, and Stamets is going in, but as a hologram.
Yes.
I do like the evolution of the Doctor throughout this, how he's very much... He's more, and I think it's suitable for the way Discovery functions as a more character-based show, that he is as much, if not more, of a ship's therapist than the ship's medical doctor.
But then I think, like, again, you think about the era that the Discovery started in.
Yes.
That was a military period, albeit one set vastly in the future, where you'd think that mental health was significantly more open than it is now. That in that situation, the ship's doctor would also be the ship's counsellor and would also be, the shoulder to cry on, and
yes.
The chances are, if there was a bar, probably was also the bartender. Like, that's the kind of multitasking that that a ship's doctor would be, like the in military times, when you take a priest with you, the priest has to be open to many different faiths. Like in one of my favorite TV shows, in MASH, the padre in that, he has to be aware of different faiths and even different religions, so that he can give solace
Yes.
to and lend an ear to anyone he comes across. And they do a lovely episode, a few nice episodes with that, actually.
But yeah, it's we see so things start going wrong as gravity starts to hit Discovery, and they all float in the sky for a bit before hitting the floor at very high speeds. Everyone's getting rather injured. There's a nice little scene as Tilly and Adira are trying to figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
Where Adira trying to prove she knows what she's doing, kind of like until he kind of snaps like, no, we triple check everything. And again, I think Tilly's right in this spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Because like the thing is, it doesn't matter how smart you are or how much you think you know about what you're doing. Everyone can make a mistake.
Yeah.
Like always, everyone can make a mistake.
And the doctor points out that Adira, they're just trying to impress Tilly.
Yeah.
Because they look up to her,
and I mean, it's strange. They manage to cram quite a lot into this episode.
Yes.
I know it's a long episode. I know it's like 40. Well, it's 50.
It's shorter than the first episode.
No, but I mean, obviously, we've just come off talking about how wonderfully packed Lower Decks is, and how somehow they managed to put an entire film into 21 minutes. But I think this was a wonderfully paced episode, actually.
We get the moment with Michael kind of talking Buck down as well and bringing him home. There's also the scenes of they are going to use the procedure that brought Picard back to life to build a body for Grey.
And they mentioned that like it's not been used in several hundred years because it kept going wrong.
Yes.
So it's I
guess
wonder.
The reason we do that is it's a way to have that happen to Picard and then not be a case of like, well, why would anyone die anymore?
Yeah.
Like it's a way to let us bring Picard back with that technology and it not stick around as a well, if that exists and works,
well, why would
we've just solved death? Yeah. So you have to give that throwaway line of, oh, it didn't really work. It worked for Picard and it's going to work for you, but everyone else, no, it doesn't work for.
Yeah. But then, obviously, that idea that they did toy with all of the shows coming together as one for one overarching thing. Especially now it's all going to Paramount Plus. That becomes a little bit more likely. And so maybe having a cybernetic organism, albeit one that has a very real soul, and the mind of a very real person, could be the thing that triggers whatever it is.
Well, speaking of, we end the episode on discovering that the black hole has changed direction.
Yeah.
Which would seem to imply there is an intelligence behind it.
Certainly, yes.
So, it's Discovery.
It is very much Discovery.
It still has all the things that I love about Discovery and all the things that I slightly less love about Discovery. All still wrapped up in a package.
Yeah, I mean, production value is still through the roof.
Yes.
they are excellent at what they do.
I think I've settled on I do like Discovery, and I still just it still just jars with me a little bit with the fact that we had a discussion last year how it's very much a different style of Trek to what Trek used to be, but it's what Trek needs to be for the modern era.
And I think the thing is that like you now have.
Yeah, there's a lot of different
and obviously there's more coming as well. There's an absolute pick and mix of Star Trek. So, yes, if you are a big Star Trek fan, then you could probably get something out of all of them. But if you don't like all of them, there is some Star Trek for you. Yes. There is an excellent kids show. There's an excellent adult sitcom essentially. There's something for new fans like Disco. There's something for old fans like Picard, at least for TNG fans. There's Patrick Stewart fans who want to see some more Patrick Stewart before he gets too old. And
maybe Strange New Worlds will be the thing for old Star Trek fans.
I have a feeling Strange New Worlds is going to be like...
I liked Picard but I'm a big Patrick Stewart fan, and maybe that is why I like Picard.
Where it, like... For me,
do you know what Picard?
Picard was very much a.
Do you remember William Shatner wrote a whole bunch of Kirk novels?
Yeah.
That effectively exist in a pocket universe of Kirkness.
Yeah.
Picard kind of feels like Patrick Stewart's equivalent.
Yeah, except like
this is the story Patrick Stewart wants to tell.
I'm not entirely sure it is the story that Patrick Stewart wants to tell. I think
it's
the Patrick Stewart. I think elements of it are, and he's obviously very excited about it, and he's loving the experience, and he loves this character so much, and so I think that like it's nice that he's getting some resolution.
Yeah.
Because obviously the last film that he did was a bit like. It was
Picard has lots of moments I enjoyed, and again, Picard and Discovery are similar to me. Like, there's a lot I like about them, and there's stuff I'm less keen on.
I mean, obviously,
Lower Decks is still, I think, my favourite of all new Trek. But
Lower Decks is, as we've said,
we're digressing.
The best of Trek. Yeah.
I will get to one final question before we close off. The new uniform.
Love it.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Because it feels like the original series movies uniforms.
Yes,
but from Wrath of Khan onwards.
And captains now clearly have 12 pips.
Yes.
Because the 4 pips get replicated 3 times.
Yeah. So you know what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't question. Oh, I just didn't see it. Like, sorry.
Which one?
Sorry, Ensign. So...
But on that note, we will see you next week for more adventures on the disco deck.
Live long and prosper.
Yep, live long and prosper.
Yeah, I saw you sneak it that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.